The rain was coming down hard when Pastor Elijah Carter stepped out of the black limousine. Water splashed across the marble entrance of Grace Dominion Cathedral as security rushed forward with umbrellas. A crowd of church members stood nearby, waving and calling his name. "Pastor Carter! Pastor Carter!" He lifted a hand politely, smiling the same practiced smile he had used for years. Inside the cathedral, nearly 40,000 people had just listened to him preach about faith, humility, and trusting God through hardship. Now he was tired. The rain beat against the pavement as his driver opened the door of the limousine again. "Sir, the road might flood if we wait too long," the driver said. Pastor Carter nodded and took a step toward the car. Then he stopped. Across the street, under the broken metal roof of a bus stop, someone was sitting on the ground. At first he thought it was just another homeless person taking shelter from the rain. But then he noticed something strange. The boy wasn't sleeping or begging. He wasn't even looking around. He was reading. But what the pastor discovered next shocked him. The pastor squinted through the rain. The child looked no older than 12. His clothes were soaked. His shoes were torn. Water dripped from his hair. Yet the boy held a small book close to his face, trying to shield the pages from the rain. "What is he doing?" Pastor Carter asked quietly. One of the security men glanced over. "Probably nothing, sir. Just a street kid." But Pastor Carter kept staring. Something about the moment felt unusual. The boy turned a page carefully, protecting the book like it was the most valuable thing he owned. "Is that a Bible?" the pastor asked. The security man shrugged. "Looks like it." Pastor Carter hesitated. The rain grew heavier. His driver cleared his throat. "Sir, we should go." But Pastor Carter didn't move. Across the street, the boy kept reading. Finally, the pastor made a sudden decision. "I'll be right back," he said. The security guards looked confused as he stepped off the curb and walked into the rain. Water soaked his expensive suit within seconds. "Sir," one guard called, but Pastor Carter kept walking until he reached the bus stop. The boy looked up suddenly, startled. His eyes widened when he recognized the man standing in front of him. You're the pastor," the boy said quietly. Pastor Carter gave a small nod. "What are you doing out here in this weather?" he asked. The boy closed the Bible halfway. "I'm reading." "I can see that." The boy looked nervous. "I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to sit here. I'll leave if you want." "No," Pastor Carter said gently. "You can stay." He glanced down at the book. "Is that a Bible?" "Yes, sir." The pastor studied the boy more closely. His shirt was thin. His hands were shaking from the cold. "How long have you been sitting here?" The boy shrugged. "A while." "What's your name?" "Daniel." "And where do you live, Daniel?" The boy hesitated. "I don't really live anywhere." The rain continued pouring around them. Pastor Carter felt something shift inside him. "You mean you're homeless?" Daniel nodded slowly. "My mom died last year," he said. "After that, I just stayed outside." Pastor Carter blinked. "You're alone?" "Not exactly." "What do you mean?" "I have some friends." "Friends?" "Other kids." The pastor looked surprised. "You all live on the street?" Daniel nodded again. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The rain tapped against the metal roof. Finally, the pastor pointed at the Bible. "Why are you reading in the rain?" Daniel looked down at the book. "I come here because the church lights are bright." "You can't read anywhere else?" "There's not much light behind the grocery store." "You sleep behind a grocery store?" Daniel nodded. "But it's dry there." The pastor felt a strange tightness in his chest. "You read the Bible every night?" "Most nights." "Why?" Daniel gave a small smile. Because it helps me remember God didn't forget me. Those words caught Pastor Carter off guard. He had preached to millions of people, but something about the way the boy said that felt honest. "What were you reading just now?" the pastor asked. Daniel opened the Bible again and flipped through the pages. "This one." He cleared his throat and read quietly. "Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." Daniel closed the book gently. "I guess Jesus understands what it's like." "What do you mean?" Pastor Carter asked. "To not have a place to sleep." The pastor felt the words hit him harder than expected. Behind him, the massive cathedral towered above the street. Millions of dollars, thousands of seats. And yet here was a boy with nothing but a worn Bible. "How old are you?" the pastor asked. 12. "You've been living outside since your mother died?" "Yes, sir." "What about school?" Daniel shook his head. "I stopped going." "Why?" "I had to take care of the others." "The others?" "The kids I told you about." Pastor Carter leaned closer. "How many are there?" "6. "6?" "Yes, sir." "They all live with you?" Daniel nodded. "Behind the grocery store." "And you're the oldest?" "Yes." The pastor felt stunned. "You take care of them?" "I try." "How do you eat?" "Sometimes people give us food." "Sometimes?" Daniel shrugged. "Sometimes we go to sleep hungry." The pastor looked down at the Bible again. "You read to them too?" Daniel smiled slightly. "Every night." "You read the Bible to them?" "Yes." "Why?" "So they're not scared." The pastor stared at the boy in silence. Then Daniel asked a question. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Is it true your church cost $40 million?" Pastor Carter blinked. "Yes." Daniel nodded slowly. "That's a lot." The pastor didn't know what to say. The rain began hitting the roof harder. Daniel looked at him again. "Do you ever get scared?" the boy asked. "Scared?" "Yes." "Why would you ask that?" "Because sometimes I do." "What scares you?" Daniel thought for a moment. "That maybe God forgot about kids like us." The words hung in the air. Pastor Carter felt his throat tighten. "God hasn't forgotten you," he said quietly. Daniel looked down. "I hope not." The pastor suddenly remembered something. Years ago, he had been poor too. He had grown up in a tiny apartment with his mother. There had been nights when they barely had food. He remembered praying for help. He remembered believing with all his heart that God would take care of them. And eventually life had changed. Scholarships, opportunities, success, then wealth, then fame. Somewhere along the way, he had stopped remembering what it felt like to be that desperate. "Daniel," he said slowly. "Yes, sir." "Where are the other children right now?" "They're probably sleeping." "In the rain?" "No, there's a broken roof behind the store." What the boy said next left everyone speechless. The pastor felt a surge of emotion. "How long have you been taking care of them?" "About 6 months." "And you're only 12?" Daniel nodded. The pastor reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. He removed several $100 bills. "Take this," he said. Daniel stared at the money. "That's a lot." "It will help you." Daniel hesitated. Then he pushed the money back. "I can't take it." Pastor Carter looked confused. "Why not?" "Because if the older guys see me with money, they'll take it." "Older guys?" "Some people on the street aren't very nice." The pastor frowned. "Then come inside the church." Daniel shook his head quickly. "I can't." "Why not?" "They don't like us in there." This boy with nothing was thinking about others first. Daniel hesitated again. "Some of the guards." Pastor Carter's face hardened. They said homeless people make the church look bad. The pastor felt a wave of embarrassment. He glanced toward the cathedral. Daniel. Yes? If you could ask God for one thing, what would it be? The boy thought carefully. Then he said something that stunned the pastor. A house. For yourself? Daniel shook his head. For my friends. You wouldn't ask for one just for you. They're younger than me. How old are they? Some are 7. The rain kept falling. Pastor Carter felt something inside him breaking open. He had built empires, owned mansions. Suddenly, Daniel asked another question. Pastor? Yes. If Jesus walked past me tonight, do you think he would stop? The pastor froze. What do you mean? Daniel looked down at the wet pavement. I mean, would he stop and talk to me? The pastor struggled to answer, because deep inside, he realized something painful. Before tonight, he probably wouldn't have stopped. The rain continued pouring. Finally, Pastor Carter took off his expensive coat and wrapped it around the boy. Daniel looked surprised. You'll get cold. I'll be fine. Then the pastor turned toward his security team. Bring the car here. The guards hurried forward. Sir? We're going somewhere. Where? To the grocery store. The guards exchanged confused looks. Right now? Yes. Within minutes, the limousine drove slowly down the street. Daniel sat quietly beside the pastor, clutching the Bible. They stopped behind the grocery store. The area smelled like garbage and rain. Broken crates were stacked near a wall. Under a collapsed metal awning, several small figures were sleeping. Pastor Carter stepped out of the car and walked closer. A little girl stirred and looked up. Daniel? It's okay, Daniel whispered. The children slowly woke up. 6 of them, thin, cold, afraid. One small boy rubbed his eyes. Who's that? Daniel smiled gently. This is Pastor Carter. The children stared at the well-dressed man standing in the rain. The pastor felt tears forming. Hello, he said softly. None of them spoke. Finally, the little girl whispered, Are we in trouble? No, the pastor said quickly. You're safe. He turned to Daniel. You've been sleeping here with them every night. Daniel nodded. Pastor Carter looked at the children again. Something inside him changed completely. He turned to his assistant. Call the hotel. Sir? Reserve 10 rooms. 10? Yes. Tonight. The assistant blinked. Right away. Within an hour, the children were sitting inside warm hotel rooms eating hot food. Some of them had never slept in beds before. Daniel watched them with quiet relief. Pastor Carter sat beside him. You didn't eat much, the pastor said. I'm full. You barely touched your food. Daniel smiled. I'm just happy they're warm. Pastor Carter stared at him in disbelief. You're 12 years old. Daniel shrugged. They need someone. The pastor took a deep breath. Daniel? Yes? I want to show you something tomorrow. What? You'll see. The next morning, news reporters gathered outside Grace Dominion Cathedral. Rumors had spread quickly. Stay till the end as I reveal what the pastor did next that shocked everyone. Pastor Carter stepped onto the stage. Daniel stood beside him. The cameras flashed. The pastor looked out at the crowd. Last night, he said slowly, I met someone who reminded me what faith really looks like. People whispered. He placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. This young man has been living on the streets, taking care of 6 other homeless children. Gasps spread through the audience. And while I was building churches, he was being the church. The crowd grew silent. So today, Pastor Carter continued, we are starting something new. The giant screen behind him lit up. Hope House Foundation. A $50 million project dedicated to rescuing homeless children across this city. Applause erupted. But there's something else, the pastor said. He looked at Daniel. Would you like to help us? Daniel looked shocked. Help you? Yes. How? By reminding us what real faith looks like. Daniel didn't know what to say. The pastor smiled. Sometimes, he said into the microphone, the people with the least teach us the most. The crowd stood and applauded. And somewhere deep in the room, Pastor Elijah Carter finally felt something he hadn't felt in years. Humility. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Sometimes the people with the least faith in this world are the ones with the most faith in God.